Hello and welcome to Roadcraft, the place for anyone who wants to be a smarter, better, and safer driver. In this episode, how do you know if you're a good driver? What's the standard of measurement for that? I have a few thoughts, so let's get rolling. I've met a lot of people who say they're good drivers. When I ask how they know, the most common response is, I haven't been in a crash. Getting in a crash, and especially multiple crashes, is a potential indicator of poor driving, and if you don't believe me, just ask your insurance agent about it. But that doesn't mean the inverse is also true. An absence of crashes isn't proof of a good driver. For example, I think we all agree that the Venn diagram of good driving and impaired driving has no overlap. Drivers with a BAC of 0.08 are 4 times more likely to crash than a sober driver. At a BAC of 0.15, drivers are 12 times more likely to crash. Impaired drivers don't crash every time they drive. Sometimes they're just lucky. If that's the case, a better response would be, I haven't been in a crash yet. So let's set some standards for what makes a good driver. At a bare minimum is someone who follows traffic laws, drives sober, stay focused, respect speed limits, use your turn signal, follow at safe distances. I could go on, but you already know all this. That alone won't make you a great driver, but it's a start. Then there are technical skills like steering, accelerating, braking, understanding how to maneuver out of a skid or other emergency situation. You might think these are the top priorities, given that they could save you when you get in a jam, but I don't think so. More important is the skill and wisdom to avoid the skid or emergency situation in the first place. This involves things like scanning ahead, using your mirrors, choosing your lane position, setting up for corners, anticipating what other drivers might do, leaving room for the unexpected. If that sounds like a lot, well, it is. Driving isn't complicated. You can learn the basics pretty quickly, but it is complex. Complicated things are difficult but knowable. Complex things have many unknowns and are hard to control and predict. That sounds a lot like driving with other people. The mistake we often make when we become competent at maneuvering a car is thinking that because it's not complicated, it's not complex. There are lots of interrelated factors when driving, and a good driver is continually identifying and responding to them. Now, when you're engaged in a complex activity, your mental state comes into play too. A good driver evaluates their frame of mind before driving. Are you mad at your boss? Stressed about your friend's health? Worried about finances? Anxiety can influence how well you drive. Now, I'm not saying only that happy people should be allowed to drive, although for the perpetually happy folks, that would be pretty great. Lots of open freeways and no road rage. My point here is that it's important to consider where you are mentally and make a conscious effort to temporarily set aside your negative emotions so they don't interfere with your driving. So, my non-exhaustive list of what makes a good driver: they follow the law. They have competent technical skills. They use collision avoidance strategies. They manage their mental state. How'd you do? Are you a good driver? Look, we're all human, so no one is going to always score perfectly, but we need a standard to aim for. If your only measurement of good driving is not being in a crash, you're probably a lot closer than you think to finding out you're not that great a driver.